Hey, flute section of a youth pride band. It was absolutely an honor working with you guys in the first rehearsal, and I just wanted to put a quick little video together for you guys that sort of like talked about how to practice some of these really difficult licks in this music. So in this email that you're going to be receiving, you're going to have this video to kind of refer to, and you're going to also have a sheet of paper that's in the PDF format of these wonderful 4-note rhythmic patterns. So I kept it for 4-note rhythmic patterns because the majority of everything that you guys are kind of struggling through is a 4-note, 16th note kind of situation. So I wanted to just kind of include everything for you guys in one package. So what I'm going to do is I want to start with Storm Chasers, and what we're looking at here is to trying to make this chromatic scale as even and as clean as possible all the way to the top of the scale. There's no real shortcuts. The best way is to practice slow and to practice carefully and to slowly and incrementally increase the tempo in which you're practicing this so that it makes more sense to you. So in the first exercise that we have here for the 4-note rhythmic patterns, they write them out in 3/8, but if you look at it carefully, there's 4 different note heads per pattern, which is what the 4-note pattern is. So if you take that pattern and you superimpose it to the chromatic scale, it's going to sound like this. The first pattern is 8th note, 2/16. So that pattern translates sort of like this onto the music. So that's the first pattern that the 4-note exercise teaches us to incorporate into the 4-note patterns. Then you use pattern number 2, which is the opposite. It's 2/16 and 2/8 notes in there. So you're going to take it and do the same thing, but this time the first 2 are going to be quick and the last 2 are slow. And then you just finish it off to the top of the B flat. So just like that, you start to add the patterns. They go 1 all the way down to like 19, and then it gives you like a new series that's a little bit more complex. But don't worry so much about series B. If you kind of stick to what series A has, it's much more user-friendly and more like exact to what you're looking for. So I'm going to do another one. Here's number 3, which is 1/8 note, 2/16, and an 1/8. So it's kind of slow at the beginning, faster in the middle, slow at the end. So that's going to kind of translate like this. So just like that, you're going to continue practicing each of those rhythmic patterns so that at the end, you can play and kind of just whiz right up the scale up to the top of that. Great, so I hope that works for that, Storm Chasers. And these 16-note patterns are also going to work with the other pieces. I'm probably going to make another quick short video on how to use them for the other pieces. So I'll see you in the next one. Ciao. So here we are again at Bright Lights, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about this section between 115 and 127, which I heard yesterday is a tricky passage. There's no cutting it. So what I suggest to working on this passage is instead of actually changing the rhythm the way we did for Storm Chasers, is to actually play with a little bit the articulation that you see on the page. So the best way to start this is from a blank canvas. Forget about everything you see and just actually start with tonguing everything. Tongue, 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 tongue everything. So I'm going to do it very, very slow so you guys get the gist of what we're talking about here. But you're going to tongue every single note like this. And so on and so forth, and the passage just go through. So that's the first thing you're going to do. And you're going to slowly start practicing that and slowly start to increase the tempo. At least I would say start it maybe like at 80 and slowly click it up until you get it to at least 100. That just all tongued, all tongued, all tongued. That's gonna do wonders for aligning your tongue and your fingers together so that when you start to really put speed behind it, your fingers won't forget where they need to go. The next thing is to maybe try it where you tongue the first note and then you slur the rest of the notes. So in the passages, the parts that you have an eighth note and 2/16, it's kind of already set up that way. So I'm gonna keep that set up all the way so when I have the 4/16 notes, I'm keeping that same articulation throughout, just to kind of play with the idea of what it sounds like and what it feels like if I were to tongue and slur, because eventually you want to be able to slur through a lot of these passages cleanly. So this is what I would do here. This is the tongue and slur, one tongued, two slurred, or one tongue and the rest slurred. And so on and so forth. So that's the slurring, tonguing one, and slurring the rest of the group. Then, you guessed it, slurring, tonguing two, and slurring two. And again, that's gonna do wonders for the patterns when you have 4/16 notes together to actually incorporate it that way. So here it is again. And just like that, getting to the passage. Again, you want to start it at 80, and once you can only move the click on the metronome, click faster, if you can demonstrate playing it perfectly fine at that marking, well, like 5 times in a row, good. Then you click it 2 notches and you do it again. If it's 5 times clean, boom, you knock it up again until you get to 100. Because if you try to move too soon up to the top numbers, what happens is you don't build a solid technique, and then when it comes up to real tempo, your fingers are just gonna give out on you. So some food for thought on how to practice this whole section. And then very shortly, you'll be able to put it up to tempo and have no problem with it. So now I'm moving on to In the Center Ring. And there's a couple of things that make this piece extremely charming and super, super cute. One of them happens to be this section here at 14 when we start the piece. To me, it just reminds me like soundtrack music for a Pixar film. So let that imagination, do what it can. But sometimes when we picture things, it helps us play it better. So just the thing that I would share with you. So, and of course, and then the second section is, of course, the solo at, after 71, and then, of course, after 84, when the whole section does the same thing. So I just wanted to share with you what the best way to prepare this is and what the pitfalls are. Number one is the tie that I marked on a lot of people's music around yesterday, was just thinking about how to do the tie correctly. So 2 things can happen. One, you can get off the tie too soon, and that's gonna compress the beat, and you're gonna get ahead of the section. And 2 is that you get off the tie late, and that's gonna delay the beat. And so then you're gonna fall behind the section and sort of make it cloudy sounding. Or what some conductors say sounds muddy, is because people are behind the beat. So let's just talk about how to best get it out of the way. And there's no real science behind any of it. It's just simple, basic, slow practice. So I'm gonna do it once slow, and so that you understand how to get off the tie and how to feel that pulse of the tie. So. So that was it, super slow motion. And as you get more comfortable with like a couple of times, and I would say like, 15, 20 times that you can play it really cleanly, slow, then I would jack up the tempo again to about midpoint, and then of course finally, the top tempo that you're looking for. But don't move to a faster tempo until you're absolutely sure that you can play every single note on the page without any problems. Because otherwise you're just gonna make more problems for yourself. And who wants to do that? With some of my students, I play a penny game, which you may have heard of it, where I put 5 pennies on one side of the stand, and then I put the metronome on, let's say maybe like what, for this 80, 85, 88. And then if I play it absolutely perfect with no mistakes, nowhere, I move a penny over to the opposite side of the stand. And then if I play it the second time and I make one single mistake, I move the penny that I just gave myself, I put it back into the pile. So the object is to get every penny on the other side of the stand. And it sounds like an easy activity, but when you get into it, like any little mistake, you gotta get the penny back. So if you're cheating, you're ultimately just cheating yourself. So once you do that a couple times, it's gonna become a lot easier. And then you can just kind of jack up the tempo on it and just go.